Beneath the rolling forests and shimmering waters of Michigan lies a world that defies explanation. A hidden tapestry of relics, carvings, and strange formations that whisper of civilizations long vanished. Footprints frozen in stone, enigmatic petroglyphs etched by unknown hands, and structures whose purpose baffle even modern science all point to secrets buried deep within the landscape. Who left these marks? Why here and not elsewhere? And how did these mysteries survive the passage of millennia? Tonight, we journey into the shadowy corners of Michigan's past, exploring the unsolved enigmas that science struggles to explain. So sit back, relax, and let's dive in. As the camera drifts across the windswept dunes along the eastern shore of Lake Michigan, it is easy to imagine a settlement once alive with the hum of industry and the chatter of families. The sand stretches endlessly, pale and shifting, occasionally dotted with scraggly grasses clinging to life in the harsh, open expanse. Beneath this serene surface lies a story of ambition, hope, and eventual disappearance. A town that thrived briefly in the 19th century, only to be swallowed by the relentless movement of the dunes. Today, the location is quiet, almost haunting, the echoes of the past barely perceptible, yet somehow present in the landscape itself. The town, known simply as Singapore, Michigan, was established in the 1830s with the promise of economic opportunity. Its founders envisioned a bustling port and shipping hub along Lake Michigan, strategically positioned to support lumber and grain trade. Buildings rose quickly, and for a time, the settlement thrived. Sawmills operated along the shore, and small wooden homes dotted the streets. Maps of the period depict streets and lots in meticulous detail, suggesting a community poised for growth, yet now only the shifting sands remain. Historical records tell us that Singapore faced extraordinary challenges. The same lake that provided opportunity also brought danger. Storms battered the shoreline, changing its shape almost seasonally. Dunes moved unpredictably, swallowing roads and foundations in layers of sand. Many residents abandoned their homes after repeated destruction, leaving behind possessions, personal effects, and the faint outlines of structures that once defined the town. What remains today are scattered remnants, rusted nails, fragments of brick, and depressions in the sand that hint at basements, streets, or the foundations of long-gone buildings. Walking along the dunes, it is almost impossible not to wonder about the lives of those who lived here. Families who celebrated births and marriages, merchants who traded goods, children who played along the shores, all now gone, their stories buried beneath layers of shifting sand. Archaeologists and historians have documented remnants of the town, yet much is left to speculation. How exactly did the environment consume Singapore so completely? Was it solely the movement of dunes, or did other, less understood natural forces contribute to the town's disappearance? Some local legends suggest a more enigmatic explanation. Stories passed down by nearby communities speak of unexplained currents in the lake that accelerated shoreline erosion, as if the land itself was determined to reclaim what had been temporarily taken. Others describe strange lights or mist appearing near the dunes at night, prompting tales of spirits wandering the empty streets or protecting forgotten treasures. While such stories cannot be verified, they underscore a sense of wonder and the unknown that permeates the area. The boundary between documented history and whispered legend is thin here, inviting curiosity rather than easy answers. Modern explorations of the site reveal further mysteries. Small artifacts surface after heavy storms or dune shifts. Tools, glass bottles, and fragments of pottery that are difficult to date precisely, as they could have moved from their original locations over the decades. These objects seem to suggest sudden departures rather than gradual decline, hinting at moments of urgency or unexpected events that drove residents away. Why would an entire community abandon its carefully constructed homes so completely? And what might still remain, hidden beneath the layers of sand, waiting to be uncovered? There is also the question of scale and permanence. Singapore was never fully incorporated, never formally recognized as a lasting settlement. Yet the town's rise and disappearance occurred rapidly, leaving it almost entirely erased from physical memory. Maps mark its presence in the 19th century, while modern maps show only an undisturbed stretch of dunes, a blank canvas for nature's reclamation. It is a rare opportunity to study how quickly human efforts can be absorbed by the environment and how fragile our constructions can be against the forces of time and nature. Yet amid the sand and scattered artifacts, one can almost feel the persistence of human presence. A well-placed brick hints at a home, a fragment of wood suggests a fence, and occasional impressions in the sand evoke streets long gone. The dunes themselves seem to shift with memory, revealing clues and then concealing them again, as if the town's history is meant to be discovered only by those willing to look closely and patiently. Each discovery raises more questions than answers, making Singapore less a lost town and more a continuing puzzle for historians, archaeologists, and dreamers alike. Standing on the edge of these dunes, gazing across the lake, it becomes clear that Singapore's story is far from over. The town is not just a historical footnote. It is a testament to human ambition, environmental challenge, and the mysteries that linger where the two intersect. We may know its founding date and approximate population, but the reasons for its total disappearance remain partially hidden, leaving us to wonder about the lives, choices, and fates of those who once called it home. And as the wind shifts the sand yet again, one cannot help but ask, what else might lie beneath, waiting to be revealed to those willing to look beyond the surface? The forest opens suddenly, revealing a clearing bathed in dappled sunlight where time seems to fold upon itself. Here, amidst the quiet rustle of leaves and the occasional cry of a distant bird, lie the Sanilac Petroglyphs, ancient markings carved into stone by hands whose identities remain a mystery. The rock faces, weathered and pitted by centuries of wind and rain, bear images that are at once simple and profoundly enigmatic. Spirals that seem to twist endlessly, humanoid figures frozen mid-motion, and serpentine forms whose sinuous curves suggest movement, life, and power. Approaching the site, one notices the deliberate placement of each carving. They are not scattered randomly. The arrangement suggests intention, ritual, or perhaps a story encoded in stone. Some symbols resemble animals, bears, turtles, and birds, while others are abstract, geometric forms that resist easy interpretation. Each image invites careful study, as if the rock itself is attempting to communicate, yet the language has been lost to time. The question arises immediately. Who created these images, and for what purpose? Were they territorial markers, spiritual guides, educational symbols, or something else entirely, now veiled by the centuries? Archaeologists date these petroglyphs to a period spanning several hundred years, possibly connected to the peoples of the Great Lakes region who lived along rivers and lakes, hunting, fishing, and farming in harmony with the land. The carvings were made by pecking and abrading the stone with harder tools, a labor-intensive process that would have required both skill and intent. Some researchers suggest the petroglyphs may have been connected to ceremonial practices, serving as conduits to the spirit world, or as visual representations of stories passed down orally. Yet much about them remains speculative. Why these particular symbols, carved in this precise location, facing the patterns of the sun and the surrounding terrain? Walking slowly along the rocks, one begins to notice subtleties that might otherwise go unnoticed. The depth of some carvings varies, as if to emphasize certain forms over others. A spiral here seems deeper and wider, drawing the eye inward, while a humanoid figure there has elongated limbs that reach toward an unseen horizon. Could these variations carry meaning beyond the aesthetic? Were they intentional, designed to be understood only by those initiated into a certain knowledge? Or were they simply the products of artistic experimentation, with layers of interpretation added over generations? The surrounding environment adds its own layer of intrigue. The site is nestled in a wooded area near waterways that would have been central to travel and trade for the people who created these petroglyphs. Seasonal changes, spring floods, summer growth, autumn winds, would have altered the context of the site over time, perhaps affecting how it was used or how its symbolism was perceived. Could the placement of certain carvings align with celestial events, the solstices or equinoxes, hinting at a sophisticated understanding of astronomy? Some researchers have proposed this, while others caution that such interpretations remain conjectural. Among the more striking images is the water panther, a legendary creature in Ojibwe and other indigenous mythologies, said to inhabit deep waters and command the forces of the lakes and rivers. Its sinuous form is carved with flowing precision, capturing a sense of energy and danger. Nearby, the Thunderbird, a massive winged figure, seems poised to take flight, embodying strength and power. These depictions hint at a spiritual worldview, one in which humans, animals, and supernatural forces were intertwined, yet the full scope of their meaning is inaccessible to modern observers. Even more mysterious are the abstract symbols, spirals, concentric circles, and geometric shapes whose significance is unknown. Could they represent stories, maps, or celestial events? Or do they encode information about the landscape, the movement of herds, or seasonal cycles? Some have speculated about connections to other ancient sites across the continent, suggesting a shared symbolic language among distant cultures. Others consider the possibility of messages lost in translation, intended for eyes and minds no longer present. As one lingers among the rocks, the weight of centuries becomes palpable. The carvings are silent, yet they convey a presence, a link to people who lived, worked, and believed in ways that remain largely mysterious. Each strike of the tool, each carefully considered design, is a testament to human curiosity and creativity, as well as to a worldview fundamentally different from our own. Modern visitors cannot fully know the intentions behind these marks, yet their power endures, challenging us to contemplate what life might have been like for those who etched their thoughts into stone. And yet, despite decades of study, the Sanilac Petroglyphs retain their secrets. Questions abound. What stories do these images tell, and what remains hidden beneath their weathered surfaces? Were there rituals performed here, now forgotten, whose echoes linger faintly in the surrounding woods? Could other carvings, now buried or eroded, extend the narrative we only partially perceive? The site invites reflection and speculation, leaving the observer suspended between the known and the unknown, between historical evidence and the imagination. As sunlight filters through the trees and casts fleeting shadows across the carved stones, one cannot help but feel the lingering presence of the past. The petroglyphs endure as both record and mystery, a dialogue across centuries that has yet to be fully understood. What remains hidden, still waiting beneath the surface, challenges us to look deeper, to wonder, and to recognize that some stories resist complete explanation, leaving only the invitation to explore, observe, and question. Stepping closer to the weathered rock face, the first thing that strikes the eye is the sheer scale of the carving. The Thunderbird, etched into stone centuries ago, stretches across the surface with wings unfurled, talons poised, and a head lifted as if in mid-cry. The figure is both imposing and graceful, a symbol of power frozen in time, carved by hands that knew the land intimately. Sunlight catches the ridges and grooves of the rock, casting shadows that animate the bird's form, giving the impression that it might rise into flight at any moment. The surrounding forest is quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves, creating a stillness that amplifies the sense of presence in the air. The Thunderbird is a figure deeply rooted in the oral traditions of the native peoples of the Great Lakes, described as a colossal bird capable of summoning storms, moving mountains, and wielding power over both land and sky. Its appearance in the Sanilac Petroglyphs is more than decorative. It is deliberate, commanding attention and respect. Archaeologists suggest that the petroglyph may have served as a spiritual or ceremonial focal point, perhaps marking a site of reverence, ritual, or guidance. Yet despite these interpretations, the carvings retain an air of mystery. The specific reasons for this Thunderbird's creation, its intended audience, and the full scope of its symbolic meaning remain largely unknown. The scale and precision of the carving are remarkable, particularly when one considers the tools available at the time. Each groove was laboriously pecked and abraded into the stone, requiring both patience and a clear vision of the final image. Some lines are so fine and precise that they almost appear to shimmer in the shifting light. What motivated the creators to invest such effort? Was it a dedication to a deity, a warning, a historical record, or a form of storytelling whose language has since vanished? And if the Thunderbird is a guardian or messenger, what message was it meant to convey to those who once walked these lands? Looking more closely, other subtle elements of the carving emerge. The wings are not symmetrical. One seems slightly raised, as if the bird is tilting in response to a wind or current unseen by the modern eye. The talons appear ready to grasp, not just in aggression, but in a manner that suggests interaction, as if with the elements or with spirits. Could this indicate knowledge of flight or an observation of birds in motion, interpreted symbolically? Or does it hint at something more esoteric, an understanding of the Thunderbird as a bridge between earthly and supernatural realms? The placement of the petroglyph within its environment also raises questions. Positioned on a rocky outcrop near a waterway, the Thunderbird seems to oversee a stretch of forest and river that would have been essential for travel, hunting, and settlement. Was the location chosen for visibility, for spiritual resonance, or for practical reasons tied to the landscape? Some theories propose that such petroglyphs were aligned with celestial events, the rising and setting sun, the phases of the moon, or the flight paths of real birds, suggesting an interplay between astronomical observation and symbolic representation. Yet the evidence is fragmentary, leaving room for interpretation and wonder. Among the surrounding carvings are smaller figures, animals, and abstract symbols, forming a subtle narrative that seems to revolve around the Thunderbird. Spirals, concentric circles, and lines radiating from the figure hint at energy or movement, a dynamic quality that contrasts with the static nature of stone. Could these elements depict storms, waters, or even the spiritual essence of the Thunderbird itself? And if so, what does that tell us about the worldview of those who created it, their understanding of nature, power, and the unseen forces that shaped their lives? For centuries, the petroglyph has weathered wind, rain, and the slow creep of time, yet it continues to communicate in a way that is both literal and ineffable. Visitors cannot hear the stories, but they can feel the weight of history, the sense that this was a place of significance. The Thunderbird speaks not in words, but through form, through presence, and through the meticulous effort of its makers. It is a voice that persists, challenging modern observers to consider what was meaningful to those who came before. Yet, as compelling as the interpretations are, the petroglyph also resists final explanation. Who precisely carved it, and for whom? Were there additional carvings, now lost to erosion or buried beneath layers of soil and vegetation, that might provide context? Did the petroglyph serve as a warning, a guide, or a symbol of authority? Or does it carry messages we will never fully understand, encoded in the silent, enduring language of stone? The answers remain elusive, And perhaps that is part of its power. Standing before the Thunderbird today, one cannot help but reflect on the tension between permanence and mystery. The figure endures, its carved lines etched into the rock for centuries, yet its meaning remains largely veiled. Each viewing invites questions, speculation, and reflection, offering a bridge to the past that is both tangible and intangible. It reminds us that some histories are not fully recorded in documents or artifacts, but in symbols, landscapes, and the collective memory of a culture. And as the wind rustles through the trees and sunlight shifts across the stone, the Thunderbird seems to watch over us still, leaving one lingering thought. How much of the ancient world remains just beyond our understanding, waiting to reveal itself to those patient enough to look closely? Beneath the cold, rolling waters of Lake Michigan, something unusual rests silently on the lakebed. A formation of massive stones arranged in a circular pattern, each rock deliberately placed, yet now partially obscured by sediment and time. Divers and archaeologists who first documented the site describe it as a submerged circle, reminiscent of the more famous Stonehenge in England, though smaller and enigmatic in its own right. The water, dark and cold, muffles sound and light, creating a sense of isolation and distance, as if the formation has been waiting patiently for centuries for someone to notice. The stones themselves vary in size, some towering several feet above the lakebed, others lying almost flat against the sand. Their surfaces are worn, smoothed by the relentless flow of water over countless years, yet the pattern is unmistakable, a deliberate arrangement suggesting intention and purpose. How and why these stones were placed here remains a topic of debate, sparking questions that straddle the line between archaeology and speculation. Could they be remnants of an ancient ceremonial site, a gathering place for long-forgotten peoples, or were they positioned for a function now lost to time? Researchers point out that the formation appears to align with certain celestial markers. Some stones correspond roughly to the positions of the sun during solstices, while others may hint at lunar cycles. If true, this would suggest a sophisticated understanding of astronomy by whoever created the structure, a knowledge that seems advanced for the region's known prehistoric inhabitants. Yet the lack of direct evidence, artifacts, tools, or associated settlements makes these hypotheses difficult to confirm. Were these stones part of an intentional ritualistic design, or are the alignments coincidental, imposed by our modern interpretation seeking patterns in the past? Theories about the Lake Michigan Stonehenge vary widely. Mainstream explanations suggest it could be the work of early native peoples who used the lake's shallow shores to construct ceremonial markers. Others propose that glacial activity deposited the stones in seemingly organized arrangements, creating the illusion of design where none was intended. Yet even glacial explanations struggle to account for the apparent circularity, the consistency in spacing, and the weight of some of the rocks. It is a puzzle that resists a simple answer, encouraging both careful investigation and imaginative contemplation. Diving among the stones, one notices subtle features, scratches, depressions, and fractures on the surfaces that hint at human modification. Some markings could be natural, formed over millennia by the interaction of water, sand, and rock. Others seem unnervingly deliberate, suggesting tools may have been used to shape or position these stones. Could these features be evidence of ritual or symbolic purpose, a form of communication with the natural or spiritual world? Or are they simply the product of forces too slow and vast for human comprehension, sculpting the landscape long before humans arrived? The location itself adds layers of mystery. The formation lies submerged today, yet evidence suggests it was once part of a shoreline or shallow water environment during periods of lower lake levels, thousands of years ago. Could it have been constructed in an era when people walked across land now beneath the lake, a place of congregation for ceremonies, social gatherings, or navigation markers? And if so, what stories, beliefs, or knowledge did this site hold that were so important it was worth arranging massive stones beneath the earth and water? Even more enigmatic is the absence of corroborating artifacts. Unlike other prehistoric sites in Michigan, no pottery, tools, or signs of habitation have been conclusively tied to the formation. This lack of material evidence deepens the mystery, raising questions about whether it served a symbolic or ephemeral purpose intended to leave a mark on the landscape rather than a record for future generations. Could it have been a site for rituals whose primary record was the stones themselves, a silent testament to traditions we no longer understand? Speculative theories push further. Some suggest the structure may have served as a navigational aid, guiding travelers across the shifting sands and waters of ancient Lake Michigan. Others posit that it was a place of astronomical observation, tracking cycles of sun and moon in ways that informed seasonal movement and hunting patterns. There are even fringe ideas that the stones were markers of a lost civilization, one predating known settlements in the region. While these theories cannot be verified, they underscore the sense of wonder and the unanswered questions that make the site so compelling. As the sun filters through the water, casting shifting shadows across the stone circle, it is easy to feel a connection across the millennia. The formation endures, silent yet powerful, a testament to effort, knowledge, and perhaps devotion. It reminds us that landscapes can hold memory, that the past is not only recorded in bones or artifacts, but sometimes in the arrangement of stone, in patterns that speak across centuries without words. Yet, for all that we observe, the Lake Michigan Stonehenge remains largely unexplained. Who placed these stones and why? What knowledge, ritual, or belief drove them to arrange the rocks with such care? And how much of this story lies hidden beneath layers of water, sand, and time, waiting for discovery? The circle invites reflection, curiosity, and the slow, deliberate process of investigation. It challenges us to acknowledge the limits of our understanding and to wonder what other secrets of Michigan's ancient past remain submerged, unseen, and unsolved, waiting for the patient eye to uncover them. The air is cool and still as one approaches the rocky outcrop where the petroglyph of the water panther, or Mishipeshu, emerges from the stone like a guardian frozen in time. The figure's sinuous body twists across the rock face, scales etched meticulously by unknown hands, claws extended as if gripping both water and earth. Its head, large and triangular, bears a fearsome expression, eyes carved deep enough to catch shadows that shift with the sun, giving the impression that it is watching, always alert. Around it, other smaller carvings seem to trace currents or eddies, a subtle suggestion that this is a being born of water, storms, and untamed power. Mishipeshu, the legendary water panther of Great Lakes mythology, is a creature said to rule the depths of lakes and rivers, guarding copper, precious stones, and hidden treasures. In the Sanilac Petroglyphs, the carving is among the most striking, both in scale and detail. The symbolism is rich. The twisting, almost serpentine form suggests movement, strength, and fluidity, while the claws and spines communicate danger, a warning to those who might approach the waters without respect. Archaeologists and anthropologists recognize it as a potent emblem in Ojibwe and other indigenous traditions, yet its placement in this particular site raises questions about intent, meaning, and context. The precision of the carving is remarkable. Deep grooves and pecked lines suggest careful planning, an understanding of the stone's hardness and skillful technique. The artist clearly had a vision, an image meant to endure centuries. Yet why carve such a detailed representation of a mythical creature in this exact location? The surrounding terrain is forested, near waterways that were once lifelines for travel, food, and settlement. Was the water panther intended to guard these paths, protect sacred spaces, or mark boundaries known only to those initiated into particular knowledge? Stepping back, the form of Mishipeshu seems almost alive. The body coils in ways that suggest both water currents and predatory intent, and the eyes, hollowed into the stone, appear to follow movement across the clearing. Could this imply that the artist observed the natural world closely, rivers, fish, and the movement of real aquatic creatures, and transformed these observations into a symbolic representation of power and danger? Or does the figure encode knowledge of water levels, currents, or spiritual significance, a form of communication meant to endure beyond human memory? The environment itself heightens the sense of mystery. Seasonal changes would have dramatically altered the landscape, spring floods transforming nearby streams into torrents, summer droughts revealing hidden pathways, and winter ice shifting patterns of travel and life. Could these natural rhythms have influenced the petroglyph's creation, the choice of location, or the meaning imbued within it? Perhaps Mishipeshu was not merely symbolic, but also practical, a visual guide to water dangers or the natural resources of the region. Yet the lack of accompanying artifacts leaves much to speculation. Some researchers point to the arrangement of nearby carvings, spirals, circles, and lines radiating outward, as potentially representing water currents, energy flows, or spiritual pathways. These patterns, viewed alongside the water panther, suggest a sophisticated understanding of symbolism and storytelling, a narrative expressed in stone rather than words. Could the petroglyph have served as a teaching tool, passing down knowledge of rivers, lakes, and spirits through generations? Or was it a sacred boundary, meant to warn outsiders of the power residing within this territory? Fringe theories add another layer of intrigue. Some suggest that Mishipeshu represents more than myth, a memory of real creatures, exaggerated through storytelling, that once inhabited the region's waters. Others propose that the petroglyph encodes astronomical or environmental knowledge, a map of currents, floods, or seasonal cycles. While such theories remain speculative, they underscore the enduring fascination with this image, the sense that it holds meaning beyond immediate comprehension. Observing the petroglyph over time, one becomes aware of the subtle interplay of light and shadow, the way the sun catches the carved lines at different angles, animating scales, spines, and eyes. It is as if the rock itself was designed to interact with the changing day, enhancing the perception of life within the stone. This deliberate attention to natural conditions, combined with mythic symbolism, creates an experience that is immersive and almost ritualistic, drawing the observer into a dialogue across centuries. Yet, despite its clarity and presence, the water panther remains enigmatic. Its meaning, significance, and full story are obscured by time. Who carved it, and what precisely did it signify to those who walked these lands long ago? Were there additional carvings now lost to erosion, or symbols yet undiscovered that might clarify its purpose? What cultural, spiritual, or environmental knowledge is encoded within this twisting, powerful figure, waiting to be understood? Standing before Mishipeshu today, it is impossible not to feel the weight of history, the convergence of observation, belief, and artistic mastery. The petroglyph speaks quietly, yet insistently, bridging the gap between human experience and the natural and supernatural worlds. It invites reflection, speculation, and wonder, reminding us that some truths are not fully accessible, yet remain profoundly compelling. And as the wind moves through the trees, rustling leaves across the stone, one is left with a lingering question. What other messages, hidden and enduring, remain etched in the stones of Michigan, waiting for the patient and curious to find them? The waters of Lake Michigan stretch endlessly, a vast expanse of deep blue that seems to shimmer under the shifting light of sun and cloud. From the shoreline, the lake appears tranquil, even inviting, but those who venture farther know it as a place of sudden storms, unpredictable currents, and strange phenomena that defy easy explanation. Somewhere within its vast expanse lies the so-called Lake Michigan Triangle, a loosely defined region where ships, aircraft, and people have vanished under mysterious circumstances. The area is quiet now, almost eerily so, yet beneath the calm surface, countless stories of disappearance, odd sightings, and unexplained occurrences whisper across decades, hinting at secrets the waters have yet to reveal. Historical records show that the lake has claimed vessels of all sizes, from small fishing boats to massive freighters. Some incidents can be attributed to the notoriously unpredictable weather of the Great Lakes, where sudden squalls, shifting winds, and dense fog make navigation treacherous. Yet, within the triangular region stretching roughly from Ludington to Benton Harbor and Milwaukee, the patterns are unusual. Vessels have disappeared without distress signals, airplanes have vanished during routine flights, and in some cases, debris is found with no signs of the crew or passengers. The consistency of these incidents has sparked both scientific inquiry and public fascination, creating a modern folklore around the triangle that mirrors the mysteries of its more famous counterpart in the Atlantic. Some explanations are straightforward. Powerful currents, submerged sandbars, and sudden storms can easily overwhelm even experienced navigators. Magnetic anomalies have also been suggested, with compasses sometimes behaving erratically in the area, potentially disorienting pilots and sailors. Yet these explanations, while plausible, do not account for all reported phenomena. Eyewitness accounts describe strange lights hovering over the water, sudden fog banks that appear and vanish without warning, and even unidentifiable objects moving rapidly across the lake. Could these sightings be optical illusions, atmospheric phenomena, or reflections of human perception under stress? Or is there something more enigmatic at work, a force or anomaly yet to be understood? The lake itself is a dynamic environment shaped by glaciers, shifting sediments, and powerful storms that have sculpted the shoreline over millennia. Beneath the surface lie underwater formations, shipwrecks, and remnants of civilizations long gone. Some theorists speculate that these submerged features may create unusual currents or magnetic fields, contributing to navigational hazards. Others propose that the lake could be a site of natural phenomena not fully documented by science. Localized whirlpools, sudden gas releases from the lakebed, or pockets of dense fog formed by microclimates. The interplay of natural forces, ancient geography, and human activity makes the area difficult to study and even more difficult to fully comprehend. Stories of strange disappearances have persisted for centuries, often passed down through oral histories of fishermen, sailors, and coastal communities. Some recount seeing inexplicable lights dancing across the water at night, moving too quickly or changing direction in ways that defy conventional physics. Others tell of sudden compasses malfunctions, instruments spinning wildly without mechanical cause. These accounts, though anecdotal, persist in local lore, contributing to the sense of mystery that surrounds the triangle. Could these events be natural anomalies, psychological phenomena, or records of interactions with forces beyond our understanding? The triangle also intersects with human history in unusual ways. Shipwrecks discovered in the area reveal vessels dating back centuries, some with cargoes that hint at early trade and exploration. Artifacts recovered from these wrecks occasionally suggest abrupt loss or abandonment, with no clear explanation for why the crews disappeared. Could the lake itself conceal ancient hazards, long-forgotten obstacles that remain dangerous to modern navigators? Or do these wrecks indicate that the region has always held a peculiar capacity for disruption, a place where human expectation is constantly tested by the unexpected? Modern technology has expanded our understanding of the area, yet has not resolved its mysteries. Sonar imaging, deep water exploration, and satellite tracking reveal the lake's topography, submerged objects, and shifting sandbars, but gaps remain. Some formations appear artificial, or at least arranged in ways that suggest human intervention, but the evidence is inconclusive. Could these formations hint at settlements now underwater, ceremonial sites, or other structures lost to time? And if so, how do these submerged features interact with the reported anomalies in navigation, weather, and perception above the water? As one watches the waves lap against the shore, it becomes clear that Lake Michigan is a living, changing environment, beautiful, dangerous, and enigmatic. The triangle, in particular, remains a focal point for questions without answers, a region where human activity, natural forces, and the unknown converge. Ships and planes may continue to traverse its expanse, but the stories persist, challenging us to consider not only the limits of our knowledge, but the mysteries that the lake itself may be guarding. Standing on the shoreline, looking out over the vast waters, one is left to ponder what truly lies beneath the surface. Are these disappearances merely accidents of nature, amplified by human perception and expectation? Or does the Lake Michigan Triangle hold phenomena, forces, or records of the past that we are only beginning to glimpse? The lake is patient, its secrets submerged, waiting for those willing to explore, observe, and question what has long remained unseen. Nestled deep within the forests of Michigan, away from the hum of roads and towns, lies a curious and foreboding natural feature known locally as the Devil's Soup Bowl. At first glance, it appears deceptively ordinary, a deep, circular depression in the earth, its sides steep and lined with moss-covered rocks and gnarled roots. Mist often clings to the rim in the early morning, lending the area an almost ethereal quality, as if it exists outside the normal flow of time. Yet those who have ventured close describe an unsettling feeling, a subtle pressure in the air, as though the landscape itself is alive and watching. The bowl is large enough to walk into, yet the walls rise abruptly, curving inward to create a natural amphitheater that traps sound, light, and wind. Early explorers noted that echoes behave strangely here, bouncing in ways that seem inconsistent with physics, distorting ordinary noises into whispers or deep resonances. Some have reported sudden chills, or the sensation of being observed, phenomena that remain difficult to quantify but contribute to the site's enduring reputation as a place of mystery. Could these experiences be purely psychological, a product of isolation and expectation? Or is there something more tangible in the topography that influences perception? Geologists studying the formation suggest that it may have been created through natural processes over thousands of years. Some point to glacial activity, erosion, or sinkhole formation as plausible explanations. The region's underlying limestone and sandstone are susceptible to weathering and collapse, which could account for the bowl's depth and steep walls. Yet even geological explanations leave gaps. Why does the depression appear so symmetrical, so perfectly shaped, as if crafted deliberately rather than left to chance? And why does it seem to resonate with an energy that has captivated visitors for centuries? Local lore deepens the intrigue. Native American stories speak of the site as a place where spirits dwelled, a natural portal to another realm. The name Devil's Soup Bowl was later applied by European settlers, inspired perhaps by the ominous aura of the site and the strange occurrences reported by those who approached. Tales of sudden disappearances, disorienting mists, and inexplicable sounds abound, passed down as warnings or stories to explain the unexplainable. Could these legends reflect cultural interpretations of natural phenomena, or do they preserve memories of something truly unusual, hidden within the earth itself? The bowl's location adds another layer of mystery. Surrounded by dense woods and difficult terrain, it is both protected and isolated. Streams feed nearby wetlands, and the floor of the depression often collects water, creating small, swirling pools after rainfall. The stillness of these waters, coupled with the shape of the depression, may have encouraged the unusual acoustic and visual effects reported by visitors. But some observations defy straightforward explanation. At times, whirlpools form spontaneously in these pools, or fog seems to rise in columns directly from the center, phenomena that have no fully satisfactory scientific account. Could these be manifestations of environmental variables interacting in rare ways, or something entirely beyond current understanding? Archaeologists have occasionally surveyed the site, searching for signs of habitation or ritual activity. Some small artifacts, arrowheads, pottery shards, and tools have been found nearby, suggesting that humans were aware of the site long before modern curiosity. Yet nothing definitively indicates the purpose these early visitors assigned to the bowl. Was it a sacred space, a gathering site, or simply a notable landmark? And if ritual activity did occur, what might the artifacts reveal about the beliefs and practices of those who once approached this enigmatic depression? Speculative theories abound, both historical and contemporary. Some suggest the bowl may have been used for ceremonies involving water or fire, capitalizing on its natural acoustics and isolation. Others propose more exotic explanations: gravitational anomalies, residual electromagnetic energy, or even openings to subterranean caverns or unknown passages beneath the earth. While these ideas remain unverified, they underscore the sense that the Devil's Soup Bowl is more than a geological curiosity. It is a locus of mystery that challenges observers to consider the limits of perception, knowledge, and imagination. Visiting the site today, one is struck by its quiet intensity. Shadows play across the walls, sunlight filters through the canopy above, and wind rustles leaves in patterns that seem almost deliberate. It is easy to imagine the centuries of stories woven into this place, warnings, observations, and experiences passed from one generation to the next, each layer adding depth to the mystery. The bowl's very presence invites reflection on the power of landscape, the endurance of natural formations, and the human impulse to interpret, ritualize, and explore the unknown. Yet, despite centuries of observation, the Devil's Soup Bowl remains largely unexplained. How was it formed with such symmetry? What caused the acoustic anomalies and sudden visual phenomena reported by visitors? Did the site serve a spiritual or ritualistic function for early inhabitants, or is its mystery entirely a product of natural forces interacting in extraordinary ways? The answers remain elusive, leaving only questions and the lingering sensation that the earth itself holds secrets just beyond human perception. Standing at the rim, looking down into the depression, one cannot help but wonder, how many mysteries lie hidden in the seemingly ordinary landscapes of Michigan, waiting for patient eyes, open minds, and curious spirits to uncover them? The Devil's Soup Bowl remains a reminder that even in familiar territory, the world can hold profound enigmas, ready to challenge our understanding and ignite our imagination. In a quiet museum, or sometimes in the dim light of private collections, lie artifacts that challenge both history and imagination. The Michigan Relics, also known as the Scotford-Soper-Savage collection. At first glance, they appear unremarkable: small tools, carved stones, tablets, and fragments of metal. But upon closer inspection, they are anything but ordinary. Each piece is etched with symbols, inscriptions, or figures that resemble a language or culture not recorded in mainstream historical accounts. The artifacts seem to whisper secrets from a past that conventional history cannot fully explain, their provenance as mysterious as their design. The collection emerged in the early 20th century, discovered across various locations in Michigan by amateur archaeologists and enthusiasts. James Scotford, Daniel Soper, and later Wilbert Savage claimed to have unearthed these items in ordinary soil, seemingly buried for centuries, if not millennia. Some artifacts are carved with scenes of people, animals, and rituals, while others bear inscriptions in an unknown script. The craftsmanship suggests knowledge of metallurgy and engraving beyond what many expected for the region and period. Yet, despite attempts at verification, the origins remain elusive. Were these remnants of a lost civilization or clever forgeries designed to confound historians? Scholars have debated the collection for over a century. Mainstream archaeology tends to dismiss the relics as hoaxes, pointing to inconsistencies in stratigraphy, the lack of corroborating settlements, and the improbability of sophisticated metallurgy among pre-European cultures in Michigan. Yet supporters argue that the artifacts demonstrate a knowledge of writing and technology that predates known regional history, suggesting the possibility of ancient trade, forgotten civilizations, or cultural exchange previously unrecognized. The tension between skepticism and belief adds a compelling layer to the relic's story, illustrating how artifacts can exist in a space between certainty and mystery. The objects themselves are hauntingly detailed. Tiny figurines carved in stone depict people in ceremonial garb, engaged in activities that seem both familiar and alien. Tablets bear inscriptions resembling letters, numbers, or ideograms, arranged in orderly lines that hint at a narrative or record. Metal pieces are etched with intricate designs, sometimes depicting animals or symbols that echo mythologies from other continents. Each piece is meticulously made, provoking questions: who created them, for what purpose, and why were they buried or hidden in the soils of Michigan? Some theorists suggest that the relics might represent remnants of a pre-Columbian civilization, one that had contact with other cultures around the world. Could they reflect an early presence of peoples who left little trace in the archaeological record, yet produced sophisticated artifacts with symbolic or religious significance? Alternatively, some propose that the artifacts were designed to convey knowledge or warnings, messages intended for future generations. If so, what knowledge and what truths were the creators trying to preserve? Exploring the collection also raises questions about human perception and belief. The artifacts have been interpreted as everything from proof of lost continents to evidence of ancient global travelers. Some see them as a challenge to the official narrative of North American prehistory, while others consider them a cautionary tale about the allure of sensational discoveries. The debate itself becomes part of the relic's power. They force observers to confront the limits of certainty and to acknowledge the possibility of histories not yet recognized. The distribution of the artifacts further complicates the story. Found in different counties, from farm fields to riverbanks, each discovery carries its own set of mysteries. Were they deposited intentionally, scattered over centuries, or buried in moments of ritual significance? And why did they surface when they did, often in the hands of individuals whose motivations and methods are themselves enigmatic? The answers are fragmentary at best, leaving gaps that invite speculation as much as research. Even the skeptics concede that the craftsmanship is notable. The precision of the engravings, the intricacy of the designs, and the variety of materials used suggest deliberate effort and significant knowledge. It is difficult to imagine these objects as casual creations. Someone intended them to endure, to be seen, to communicate. What stories were they meant to tell? And who was their intended audience? The absence of contextual evidence, the lack of settlements, tools, or contemporaneous artifacts nearby only deepens the enigma, leaving us with fragments of a narrative that may never be complete. Viewing the Michigan relics today, one senses the pull of the unknown. Each artifact seems to hold a fragment of a larger story, a chapter of history that was lost, hidden, or deliberately obscured. They are simultaneously tangible and elusive, present in our hands yet resisting full understanding. In this sense, the collection embodies the tension between discovery and mystery, science and speculation, the known and the unknowable. And so, as one examines the relics, questions remain. Who created these objects, and what knowledge or culture do they represent? Were they truly remnants of a forgotten civilization, or carefully crafted hoaxes that have nonetheless sparked curiosity and debate for over a century? How much of Michigan's past, its ancient peoples and hidden histories, lies undiscovered, waiting beneath the soil, silent yet speaking to those who dare to look closely? The Michigan relics endure as a puzzle, a testament to human curiosity and a reminder that some stories, no matter how deeply buried, continue to captivate the imagination. Hidden along the rocky shores of Michigan, carved into stone that has weathered centuries of wind, water, and ice, is the petroglyph of the underwater serpent. The figure stretches across the surface, its long, sinuous body coiling and twisting like a river frozen in stone. Scales are etched in careful, repetitive patterns, while a fearsome head rises with jaws slightly open, revealing sharp teeth and a curling tongue. At certain angles, sunlight catches the ridges, making the serpent appear to writhe, as though the water itself has been captured in solid form. Surrounding the serpent are smaller carvings, waves, spirals, and abstract markings, creating a visual language that hints at both reverence and caution. Legends from the indigenous peoples of the Great Lakes speak of a creature that ruled the depths, a guardian or predator of rivers, lakes, and hidden treasures. The underwater serpent, sometimes conflated with Mishipeshu, is described as a powerful being, capable of creating storms, capsizing canoes, and exacting vengeance on those who disrespected the waters. Its depiction in stone suggests that the creators did not merely wish to portray an animal, but to capture the essence of its power, embedding a warning, a story, or a ritual into the landscape itself. The carving is intricate, suggesting both artistry and intention. Each curve, each scale, and each ridge seems designed to convey motion, life, and threat. Could this indicate that the artist observed actual serpentine or aquatic creatures, translating their observations into symbolic forms? Or is it an imaginative manifestation, a mythic creature born of cultural memory, environmental awareness, and spiritual belief? In either case, the petroglyph demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of the natural world and its dangers, expressed through the enduring medium of stone. The site itself adds layers of mystery. Located near water, often a river or a lake that has shifted over time, the serpent appears in a setting where currents, erosion, and seasonal flooding would have shaped the landscape. Some scholars suggest that the petroglyph may have served a practical purpose, marking dangerous waters, submerged rocks, or treacherous currents for travelers. Others contend that it is primarily symbolic, an embodiment of spiritual or cultural beliefs, meant to remind those who approached the lake or river of the power inherent in the natural world. Could it have served both purposes, blending practical knowledge with spiritual reverence in a single, enduring image? The serpent's posture raises additional questions. Its body coils tightly, yet the head lifts as if surveying its surroundings, a gesture that seems intentional rather than random. Nearby symbols, spirals, radiating lines, and abstract markings may represent waves, energy, or even celestial alignment. Were these features meant to convey motion, danger, or mystical force? And if so, did the creators intend to communicate with future generations, leaving behind instructions or warnings encoded in their carvings? The ambiguity is part of the petroglyph's power, inviting contemplation and curiosity rather than offering certainty. Historical records note that similar serpent motifs appear throughout the Great Lakes region, often associated with water, protection, or spiritual authority. Yet the underwater serpent petroglyph stands out for its scale, intricacy, and context. The precise dating of the carving remains uncertain, complicated by erosion, sediment displacement, and the lack of associated artifacts, Some researchers suggest it could be thousands of years old, while others argue for a more recent origin. Regardless of age, the impact of the figure is immediate and enduring. It commands attention, evokes awe, and challenges observers to interpret its meaning within a landscape that has changed dramatically over time. Speculative interpretations extend beyond mythology and practical use. Some propose that the serpent represents an unknown species, perhaps an aquatic creature now extinct or exaggerated in memory. Others suggest that the petroglyph encodes environmental knowledge, currents, seasonal changes, or locations of underwater hazards. More fringe theories even suggest connections to ancient global civilizations, lost technologies, or symbolic systems that predate documented histories in the region. While such ideas remain speculative, they highlight the enduring fascination with the serpent and the mysteries it embodies. Observing the carving today, one is struck by the interplay of natural forces and human intention. Sunlight, shadow, wind, and water all interact with the stone, animating the serpent in subtle ways. It is a reminder that the creators were deeply attuned to the environment, using their tools and vision to create a lasting presence within a living landscape. The petroglyph is not static. It is part of the land, shaped by both human hand and the elements over centuries. Yet, despite centuries of study and speculation, the underwater serpent remains an enigma. Who carved it, and why? Did it serve as a warning, a spiritual guide, or a record of a creature long forgotten? What knowledge, belief, or story was intended to survive through this depiction, etched into stone for generations to witness? And perhaps most tantalizingly, how much of the serpent's meaning and the broader mysteries of Michigan's ancient past remains submerged, waiting for discovery by those willing to look closely, observe patiently, and wonder deeply. Rising from the icy waters of Lake Superior, Isle Royale is a rugged, remote island, its cliffs and rocky shorelines battered by relentless winds and waves. Amid this wild landscape lie traces of one of Michigan's most enigmatic and ancient sites, the copper mines of Isle Royale. At first glance, they appear as simple depressions and grooves in the rock, seemingly carved by time or nature. Yet careful observation reveals tool marks, smoothed edges, and patterns that suggest deliberate human activity, a careful extraction of the shimmering metal that lies beneath the island's surface. The landscape itself seems to whisper, as if holding the echoes of generations who once labored here, leaving behind a metallic legacy that has perplexed modern researchers. Copper occurs naturally on Isle Royale in large, pure deposits, sometimes forming veins that stretch for meters through basalt and sandstone. The extraction sites vary in size and shape. Some resemble shallow pits, others resemble long trenches, while still others appear as small hollows or tunnels, carved carefully to follow the metal's natural contours. Many of the grooves and cuts are unnaturally smooth, raising questions about the tools and techniques used to remove such hard rock. Modern scholars often marvel at the precision, wondering how early inhabitants managed to extract copper without the benefit of metal tools, and what knowledge and skill this implies about the people who worked here. The mines themselves are difficult to date accurately. Artifacts and tool fragments suggest activity spanning thousands of years, perhaps from the late Archaic period onward. Some evidence points to repeated usage over centuries, with sites appearing to have been revisited and modified by successive groups. The absence of permanent settlements nearby raises intriguing questions. Were these mines temporary work sites, sacred spaces, or strategic locations for resource extraction? And if people came to Isle Royale specifically for copper, what journeys did they undertake across the often treacherous waters of Lake Superior to access this material? Copper from Isle Royale has been discovered in archaeological sites throughout the Great Lakes region, some hundreds of miles away. This suggests that the metal held significant value, not only for tools and weapons, but possibly for ceremonial or symbolic purposes. Could the mines have been part of an extensive trade network, connecting disparate communities long before European contact? And if so, what systems of knowledge, negotiation, and navigation enabled these early people to transport heavy copper across vast distances with limited technology? Mainstream explanations often emphasize the practical use of copper, hammered into awls, spear points, or ornaments. It provided essential tools for daily life. Yet, certain aspects of the mines defy purely utilitarian interpretation. Some extraction pits are located in places that seem inconvenient or difficult to access, far from obvious settlements or transport routes. Others contain curious arrangements of rocks and depressions, hinting at ceremonial or symbolic activity. Could these locations have been chosen not only for copper content, but also for spiritual or cultural reasons? A belief that the metal was imbued with power, or that the act of extraction itself held ritual significance. The physical effort required to remove large copper masses without metal implements is astonishing. Archaeologists have documented evidence of hammering and chiseling using stone tools, yet the scale and depth of some cuts suggest extraordinary perseverance, coordination, and skill. How many hands labored for how many years to extract this metal, and what knowledge guided their actions? Were there master craftsmen who oversaw operations, or was the knowledge shared communally, passed orally and through experience? Each groove and hollow speaks of human ingenuity, patience, and determination, leaving an imprint that survives even when the people themselves have vanished. Some speculative theories extend beyond conventional archaeology. Fringe researchers have suggested that the copper mines may have been part of a lost civilization, perhaps with knowledge of metallurgy or engineering that has been lost to history. Others propose that the mines may hold hidden messages or encoded knowledge, a record of trade, ritual, or astronomical observation embedded in their placement and pattern. While these ideas remain unverified, they highlight the allure of Isle Royale. It is a place where tangible evidence and unanswered questions coexist, inviting curiosity and wonder. Standing on the cliffs overlooking the mines today, one can see the interplay of rock, metal, and water, the rugged island shaped by both natural forces and human hands. Sunlight glints off scattered copper fragments, reflecting centuries of effort and knowledge, while waves crash below, erasing footprints and sound. The mines are a testament to endurance, intelligence, and ingenuity, yet they remain elusive in their full meaning. What motivated these early miners? What social, spiritual, or practical imperatives guided their work? And what stories lie hidden, buried beneath layers of rock, soil, and time? Even now, the copper mines of Isle Royale challenge our understanding of prehistory. They are not simply evidence of resource extraction. They are a window into human determination, the quest for material and symbolic power, and the mysteries of Michigan's ancient past. Each groove, pit, and vein invites reflection. How much do we truly know about the people who walked these islands, who labored for copper with tools of stone, and whose legacy remains etched into rock and memory? The answers remain elusive, leaving only the sense of awe and curiosity that continues to draw scholars, adventurers, and dreamers to this remote and mysterious island. Buried deep within the glacial soils of Michigan, fragments of immense bones have long whispered tales of a distant past. These are the fossilized remains of mastodons, creatures that roamed North America tens of thousands of years ago, their enormous forms dwarfing even the largest modern elephants. Some of these skeletal discoveries are ordinary in the sense that they confirm what paleontologists already knew. Mastodons once thrived in the forests and wetlands of Michigan. Yet scattered among the usual finds are bones that defy easy explanation, remarkable in their size, unusual in their positioning, or accompanied by artifacts whose presence raises more questions than answers. The discovery of a mastodon skeleton is a humbling experience. Large tusks, curling like giant crescents, emerge from the earth as if frozen mid-motion. The leg bones, thick and knotted with muscle impressions preserved over millennia, suggest immense strength and mobility. Yet in several locations across Michigan, some bones appear not only well-preserved but carefully arranged. Early observers reported bones in patterns that seemed unnatural, suggesting human or intelligent involvement, although the context and origin remain deeply uncertain. Were these simply post-mortem arrangements caused by rivers, glaciers, or scavengers, or do they hint at something more extraordinary? Carbon dating and stratigraphic analysis provide some answers, placing many of these remains in the late Pleistocene epoch, roughly 10,000 to 15,000 years ago. The environment was vastly different then. Dense forests, rolling wetlands, and a climate capable of sustaining large herbivores in abundance. Yet the presence of certain tools, stones, or markings in close proximity to some bones has led researchers to wonder whether humans interacted with these animals in ways not fully understood. Did early peoples hunt mastodons in Michigan, process their bones for tools or ceremonial purposes, or perhaps even revere these giant creatures as spiritual symbols? Some finds are particularly puzzling. In isolated sites, mastodon bones appear to have been broken with remarkable precision, resembling cuts or strikes that modern scientists struggle to replicate with primitive tools. Could these marks indicate hunting techniques, ritual dismemberment, or a combination of both? The debate continues, as evidence is often fragmentary and context is difficult to establish. Without accompanying settlements or habitation sites, the true relationship between humans and mastodons in Michigan remains shrouded in uncertainty. Beyond the physical evidence, the bones themselves carry an aura of mystery. Some tusks exhibit unusual curvature, while skulls bear fractures that resist simple explanation. Rarely, bones seem to have been moved from their original location, as though intentionally relocated. Was this the work of humans, animals, or natural geological processes? The ambiguity fuels speculation, blurring the lines between natural history and human interaction, and leaving the observer with a lingering sense of wonder at the magnitude of life in Michigan long before recorded history. Local lore further enriches the narrative. Indigenous stories speak of enormous creatures inhabiting the forests and lakes, beasts of immense size and strength whose memory survived in oral tradition. Could these legends reflect encounters with living mastodons, observations preserved through generations, or symbolic narratives inspired by fossilized bones unearthed long ago? The interplay between myth and physical evidence creates a layered tapestry, one that challenges researchers to consider both science and storytelling as they attempt to reconstruct Michigan's ancient past. Some fringe theories push even further. Certain enthusiasts speculate that these bones suggest interactions with previously unknown species, perhaps creatures larger than conventional mastodons, or that human civilization in the region is far older than currently accepted. While mainstream science remains cautious, the very existence of unusual arrangements, tool marks, and enigmatic contextual clues ensures that these sites continue to fascinate, sparking debate and curiosity. Visiting a mastodon dig today is an experience that balances awe with contemplation. The sheer scale of the bones impresses immediately, yet the mystery lingers in the spaces between fragments, in the sediment that encases them, and in the silent evidence of time passing. Shadows stretch across tusks and femurs, the patterns of erosion and preservation creating a visual language that hints at both life and loss, survival and extinction. The fossilized remains are simultaneously a record of the Pleistocene ecosystem and a mirror reflecting humanity's persistent fascination with what has come before. And so, the mystery endures. Were these mastodons hunted, venerated, or merely victims of natural forces? How many remains lie undiscovered, still hidden beneath the glacial deposits of Michigan, preserving secrets that could redefine our understanding of prehistory? The answers are fragmentary, tantalizing, and elusive. Each excavation, each new discovery, only deepens the intrigue, reminding us that the past, though buried, still speaks to those willing to listen, observe, and wonder. Standing among the fossilized bones, one is left to ponder. What other giants, what other enigmas remain hidden beneath Michigan's forests, wetlands, and soils, waiting patiently for the curious, the patient, and the daring to uncover them? The mystery of the mastodons is not only about life long gone, but about the enduring challenge of understanding the ancient world, a challenge that continues to captivate the mind and imagination. Etched into the weathered rock faces of Michigan's forests and riverbanks, the petroglyph of the spiral symbol captures the eye with its simple yet hypnotic form. The spirals curl inward, concentric rings carved deeply into stone, their edges smoothed by centuries of wind, rain, and ice. At certain times of day, sunlight glances off the grooves, casting shadows that accentuate their curves, giving the impression that the symbols move or pulse, almost alive beneath the observer's gaze. Surrounding the spirals are smaller markings, dots, lines, and geometric patterns that hint at a larger visual language, one that conveys meaning without words, or perhaps a story whose key has been lost to time. Spirals have been a recurring motif in human history, appearing on continents and across cultures. In Michigan, these symbols are linked to ancient Native American traditions, yet their exact purpose remains enigmatic. Were they representations of the natural world, whirlpools, storms, or the flow of rivers? Could they symbolize cycles of life, death, and rebirth, a spiritual or cosmological map encoded in stone? Or were they markers, guiding travelers or denoting sacred spaces, a practical tool embedded with layers of meaning beyond immediate comprehension? The ambiguity invites both observation and speculation, encouraging the mind to wander as it searches for understanding. The placement of the spiral petroglyphs is as compelling as their form. Often situated near water sources, rivers, lakes, or wetlands, the carvings suggest a relationship between symbol and environment. Perhaps the creators were attuned to the movement of water, wind, or celestial bodies, embedding their knowledge into the stone in ways that modern observers struggle to interpret. In some locations, spirals appear in alignment with natural features, such as cliffs, valleys, or the rising and setting sun, hinting at an awareness of spatial orientation and seasonal cycles. Could these alignments reflect ceremonial or astronomical knowledge, or are they coincidental, shaped by the terrain and the human eye? Archaeologists studying the petroglyphs note the precision of the carvings. The grooves are often evenly spaced and carefully incised, suggesting not only patience and skill but also a deliberate intention to communicate. Tools used for carving were likely simple, yet the resulting forms are elegant, complex, and enduring. The effort required to produce such marks raises questions about the society that created them. How many people participated in these carvings? Were they individuals practicing spiritual devotion, a community recording events, or specialized artisans entrusted with preserving knowledge? The spiral's symbolism is tantalizingly open-ended. Some researchers associate it with water deities, serpentine figures, or the underwater serpent motifs found elsewhere in Michigan. Others suggest it represents a broader cosmological understanding, a map of celestial movement, the cycles of the seasons, or even the path of life itself. Comparisons with spiral motifs found worldwide, from Ireland to the American Southwest, underscore the universality of the symbol, yet local context suggests a uniquely regional meaning. How did these ideas emerge, and to what extent were they shared, transmitted, or adapted over generations? The mystery deepens when considering the petroglyph's age. Weathering, sedimentation, and lichen growth make precise dating challenging. Estimates suggest that some spirals could be thousands of years old, surviving millennia of natural erosion while continuing to communicate in a language lost to time. The fact that the symbol persists in multiple locations, often in isolation from other archaeological remains, underscores its enigmatic nature. Why were these sites chosen? What significance did the spiral hold for those who carved it, and why was it important enough to etch so carefully into enduring stone? Speculative interpretations invite even more questions. Could the spirals encode mathematical or astronomical knowledge, a method of tracking lunar phases, solar cycles, or seasonal migration patterns? Might they have served as spiritual portals, ritual focal points, or tools for meditation and contemplation? While definitive answers remain elusive, these theories highlight the power of the symbol. It captivates the imagination, urging observers to look beyond the surface and consider connections between humanity, nature, and the cosmos. Today, the petroglyphs continue to provoke awe and curiosity. Walking among the carved stones, one senses a dialogue across time, a silent communication between the observer and the unknown hands that shaped the grooves. Shadows shift in the spiral's curves, and the wind through the trees adds a subtle soundtrack to this ancient canvas, reinforcing the idea that the past is not entirely gone, only waiting to be read, interpreted, and respected. Yet, for all the study, speculation, and reverence, the spiral remains a riddle. What precise meaning did it hold for its creators? Was it a map, a warning, a story, or a spiritual key? How many other symbols, perhaps now lost to erosion or hidden in the forests, remain unseen, their messages waiting for discovery? The petroglyph of the spiral symbol reminds us that Michigan's ancient past is not fully revealed, and that mystery endures in the most enduring of forms. The human impulse to mark the world, to communicate, and to seek understanding across the millennia.